Well, Majora and I complement each other really well because she's a real hands-on practitioner, master practitioner of making all this stuff happen. And I'm a cheerleader. So,
I wouldn't go that.
So my role in the organization is to try to get our federal government excited about the kinds of things that Majora and others are doing and get the federal government to support our problem solvers. Right now, the federal government is on the side of the problem makers in the US economy. The federal government's on the side of the polluters, the warmongers, the incarcerated. Incarcerators, they get all the money, all the tax breaks, all the love. The problem solvers, our eco-entrepreneurs, our solar industry, the renewables industry, folks like Majora get nothing. They're in the back of the line. So we're trying to get the government to be on the side of the problem solvers. Our first thing that we did, we went with the Apollo Alliance and Workforce Alliance and other partners to the federal government. Speaker Pelosi heard about what we were doing in Oakland, and she's right there in San Francisco. She got excited. She took us under the wing, and she helped us get put into the energy bill that George Bush signed into law in December, something called Title 10. See, we snuck it in there. I don't think George read the whole bill.
No.
I sometimes don't know if he, anyway. But if he had turned the pages and got to Title 10, he would have seen something called the Green Jobs Act of 2007. And all it does is it authorizes about $125 million for green job training across the country, to go to community colleges, to go to labor unions or whatever. You say $125 million, that's nothing. What's that, 3 seconds in Iraq? You know, that's like nothing. You give a community college $1 million and tell them to start training people in building weatherization and green roofs and solar panel installation. $1 million for a community, you know, like when I come from, it's a lot of money. And can make a huge difference. And it's enough money to train about 30,000 people a year in these green trades and begin to create these green pathways out of poverty. The other thing that's in there, which I also don't think you read, is this green community block grant that some other of our folks got in. It's about $2 billion to help cities do crash, which we got to talk about, crash weatherization, crash solarization. We got to move now. Well, if you look at that energy bill, if we can get the funds appropriated, and that's our next fight, to get the actual money appropriated, you've got a pot of money to start greening the cities and a pot of money to train the workers. So that's our big job this year through Green for All, is to get the money appropriated. $2 billion to begin this crash weatherization for our cities, and then $125 million to start training our young people. This is the work that most needs to be done. Let's give it to the people who most need the work.
And the kind of strategy that Van has led, bringing together all the folks, you know, from Center for American Progress, Center on Wisconsin Strategy, like all these great minds that think, like, how can we actually figure out how to, you know, create the kind of finances to support, you know, this work. I mean, that is just like sheer brilliance, you know, really. And so I just have to put it out there, and it would not have happened, you know, without you leading that charge. But the other thing that what it does do, and no, $125 million is not a lot of money, but the symbolic value that it has really does make it easier for folks like me to think, to actually like show them, like, this is bigger than what you think. I mean, again, thanks for putting it out there, Van, that yes, I live in one of the richest cities in this entire world, in the poorest congressional district. And I gotta tell you, you know, like my city's just done, you know, New York City just did this Plan NYC, great sustainability plan. It's been much ballyhooed, mentioned jobs maybe twice in a whole 127-page document. Green jobs, not at all. And for us, you know, and we actually had a huge, you know, victory actually on the city legislative front. Intro 630, which was signed into law actually by the mayor, but not really easily. All it stated was that, very simply, you know, and doing planning, you know, for stormwater infrastructure management, like how do you keep, you know, how do we keep from building bigger sewage treatment plants, that we look at things like low impact developments. You know, things like green roof installation, you know, street tree planting, et cetera. Why? Because number one, they manage stormwater. Number two, they provide jobs that cannot be outsourced to India or China. And we created, my agency created a coalition called SWIM, Stormwater Infrastructure Matters, specifically to get that kind of policy and legislation passed, because we knew things on the federal level were coming down the pipe. And we also figured that it would be a great thing because cities that wanted to talk the talk about sustainability should be walking the walk. We almost didn't get this thing through. And all we were asking them to do was just look at low impact developments. But it's the kind of really problematic thing where when communities are saying, look, we want to be a part of this. We're not saying, put all the waste facilities in our community or the sewage treatment facilities that are in our neighborhood and put them in somebody else's backyard. None of us are saying that. We're saying, look, we know that there are a lot of problems out here and we are willing to take on some of the work to deal with it. But you have to recognize that we need some tools to do that. In the same breath, if our city is planning on spending $1 billion on developing sewage treatment plants, and another, $500 million, $400 million, on building more jails in my community. And now that we know that proximity to fossil fuel emissions actually causes learning disabilities in young children. So if we're setting up situations with lots of pollution-based economies sitting right there, and then we're creating jails in our communities, it's kind of like we're saying, this is where we expect you to go. And I didn't, Van and I did come at this work, where we are right now from two really different points. I just wanted to clean up my neighborhood because I knew the impact it was having on the health and well-being of people, me, my mom, everybody that lived in my neighborhood. And Van came at it because he knew that ultimately it was the prison industrial complex that was destroying lives. And isn't it interesting, that we came to the same conclusion that it was going to be green, that was going to raise us all up. Just raise us all up. Can you imagine an economy ever in this country that had that level, that kind of possibility? This does. And that's what's so exciting about this. It's like I'm sorry, it just makes me so happy to think about that we can be in America that's as good as its promise for a change. But we do need the kind of support that Van is pushing for on the federal level to support the things that are happening down below so that everybody on all different levels can feel it.